Welcome to the Organic Wine Podcast. Hi, this is Adam Huss, coming to you from Los Angeles. Thanks for listening. Anna and David Delaski are my guests for this episode, and they are the owners of Solminer in Los Olivos, California. This episode runs a little long, partly because I had so much fun talking to these two wonderful people who are making wine from some of the vineyards I make wine from, as well as from their own estate, Biodynamic Vineyard. So we were like neighbors who have lived next to each other for years, only to discover that we share all the same interests. But also, I ran a little long because these guys are doing so much cool stuff. We barely covered half of it in this interview. Anna and David are making natural wines with Austrian grapes in Santa Barbara County, and they're doing it with amazing farming that is certified biodynamic and organic and will soon be regenerative organic certified. They are growing the first biodynamic and organic certified Sankt Laurent in the United States. I love Anna's insight into terroir and growing Austrian grapes in California that comes from being a person who herself was also originally from Austria and is now a Californian. And I love that these guys are very conscious about giving back and using their business to promote diversity and equity in the wine industry by partnering with and supporting great organizations like Natural Action and 1% for the Planet. Actually, there's so much to learn from Anna and David that I'll just shut up now and get this show on the road. Enjoy. Hey guys, welcome, Anna and David. Could you start by introducing yourself? Thanks for joining.
Sure, absolutely. It's good to be here, Adam.
Hi, Adam.
Anna and
Hey.
I are here in Los Olivos. We have a small, really small vineyard here on a 12-acre property. We have about 4 acres of planted vines here. And Anna and I started this journey we met in 2009. And by 2012, we had found what was the beginnings of this vineyard. So we started making a little bit of wine, and then we had found Gruner Veltliner here, and
I'm originally from Austria.
yeah, so that
I was gonna say, I think, I know that there's an Austrian connection. I thought it was you, Anna. All right,
Yeah.
just
So
glad.
we went on a honeymoon. We lived in LA at that point, and I saw like a Gruner Veltliner like that was grown here in California, and that really surprised me because the climate is so different.
Mm-hmm.
And we tasted it. It was from Edna Valley, and it was really good. And we just said, let's make 1 barrel of Gruner, and that was the beginning of Solminer.
did we
Oh
say it
wow.
that night? Well, yeah, we went back to LA, and I mean we kept coming up here and meeting people, and it kind of I guess we just didn't know any better. We honestly didn't know anything about making wine at the time. Anna and I
You're
loved
never too old to learn something new.
we loved
Right.
to drink wine and be around wine, and but honestly we lacked any sort of real world experience. So crazily enough, that didn't stop us. But
Well, yeah, you've had a crash course, I think, in the time since you started, especially this past year.
Yeah, no, we were kind of crazy kids in love, and everything kind of anything became possible. So um, that and a lot of serendipity and some help in the beginning, really. Just we dove right in, and with some of the people around us, they helped us. But we had our own ideas about organic farming and
Yeah, that
and
was a must. Like we said, like let's make wine, make Austrian inspired wine, and let's do it the most sustainable way possible. That was definitely one of the founding principles.
I love it. I mean, honestly, that's how I stumbled upon you because I was researching for a post. I have a post about all the places that you can taste, all the wineries where you can taste wine in Santa Barbara County that are organic or biodynamic, and just I knew everyone that I knew, and then boom, you guys popped up, and I was like, what? Why haven't I heard about you guys? Like, this is amazing. And you guys, you're your estate vineyard, the Delanda vineyard, is biodynamic and organic certified.
Mm-hmm.
I love also, I mean, these are all the things that we do with our winery. We also, you list ingredients on your labels for what goes in, which are often just grapes and sometimes, and sulfites occasionally. I love that as well. What was the inspiration behind doing that?
Yeah, I think basically I we had noticed it being done before, and oddly enough, we had to sort of figure out. There's a lot of regulations as far as making organic wine,
Yeah.
and as you may know, the American standard does not allow for any addition of sulfites for it to be organic. So we thought it was a good way to get the word organic. You're allowed to make an ingredient statement as and so we can say organic grapes, but we can't necessarily say it's organic wine because
Yep.
there may even be naturally occurring sulfur that's over that limit. Basically, we found that lots of times. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yep.
I want to know what I put into my body. Like if I when I try to buy mostly organic foods and I read the ingredients label on that, and I think it would be I think it would be great if we can if everyone would do it on a wine label too.
I think
Uh,
it's also comes down to we find that if you're dedicated to putting what's on the ingredients label on the ingredients on the label, you have less of a tendency to put something into the wine that may not look good on the label, basically. So I think there'd be a lot less things going into wine if it went on the label as well.
I I think that's 100% true. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing when you talk to winemakers, even winemakers who are doing, you, who are considered natural or low intervention. A lot of them don't list ingredients, and if you talk to them, you know that there are things that are being added, and none of it is horrible. Like, it's just about the idea. I think the consumer has this idea that wine is grapes. It's just
Hmm.
fermented
Sure.
grapes,
And
And
I really
and
like
the reality.
I really
Sorry,
like,
go.
sorry, I really like transparency. Like it's nice when you know what's in a bottle.
right.
Yep.
And but I mean, if you add tartaric acid, I mean, you should just put tartaric acid. Basically, it's fine. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that, and it can
Yeah.
create a balanced wine that may otherwise be out of balance. Basically, but you should
Yep.
just put it in there.
Yeah.
Basically, so um,
Yeah. I yep, I totally agree. It's funny, we are preaching to the choir here
that's right.
between
Yeah.
us. I think we see completely eye to eye on that. That's funny. I mean, because I have that impulse too of just like when there's a problem with the wine, knowing that I'm going to put it on the label if I add anything makes me get that much more careful about the winemaking. Like, because I'm just like, okay, are there ways that we can solve this problem without an easy addition of this or that, and obviously you guys know a lot of that comes back to just the wine growing and getting a balanced grape and picking it at the right time. Um, let's talk. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, which isn't always easy, basically. And there's, like I said, there's definitely winemakers toolkit of all kinds of ingredients that that aren't bad for you, but it can aren't just grapes. But and yeah, like I said, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that
Yeah.
when you're really farming biodynamically, you're trying to work just with the vineyard and the grapes that you get from that vineyard. So that makes it, yes, you're careful, and you're also have to think outside the box for sure.
Let me ask you guys a question. This just occurs to me. Do you think that this? Do you think that we should be planting vineyards in California in places where you can't get balance? I know this is like a really volatile question, but I'm thinking about specifically like Los Angeles. Like, if you're trying to get grapes from Los Angeles, like I live in Los Angeles, and we're trying to move our winery here and potentially, and make wine from here. But that means a lot of times getting grapes from the Antelope Valley, which no prejudice against the Antelope Valley, but the heat basically eliminates acid. You're going to get to a Brix level that is ripe, you're going to lose most of your acid. And so you're going to have ripe flavors, but a really flabby, like fruit punchy kind of juice. So you're going to have to add tartarics. But if you have this limitation of being completely natural where you're not adding anything, is that, I mean, it makes me think, like, should that be a form of evaluating where we're putting vineyards? Like, should the ability of the grapes to ripen and retain acid, ripen fully and still retain acid, be a qualification? Now, having said that, it might have a lot to do with varieties, because I know some grapes in the Antelope Valley really hold on to acid, and maybe that's the way we should be thinking. Anyway, I'm just throwing these
Yeah,
questions out for you
yeah.
guys.
Finding the right thing, and it's not just in LA, but outside of California, there's all kinds of places in the Midwest and the East Coast, and there's grapes grown in every single state, including Alaska and Hawaii. But I think the question of what you're growing is super important. And when you've got some
Yeah.
guy in Texas who's like, "Well, I like cab. I'm gonna drink. I'm gonna grow cab." It's like, well, there's like hybrids out there. I mean, I don't even know all the names of these hybrids, but there are things
Yeah.
that grow in Michigan that could be like way better than growing some of the standard California grapes are the grapes that have done well in California. So I I, I think you're absolutely right. I think you should look at where you are and what the terroir is expressing, and what's suitable for that place. Even if you're in a place that's a great growing area, yeah, you've got to kind of consider what you're going to grow. Now, in our case, we just threw caution to the wind and grew what
Yeah,
we wanted to because of the Austrian connection. So maybe we didn't, follow our own rule. But
well, but that's see, I think there's two ways of looking at it. Like we make a more classical Gruner, like that's like grown in the Santa Rita Hills, that has some. It's still a California wine, but then but it's a little more similar to like an Austrian classic Gruner. But then the Gruner that's grown on our property is Los Olivos is warmer than the Santa Rita Hills, so it's definitely also like a higher pH wine. We harvest early to retain the acidity, but we leave it on the skins too, and it's like this. It's
Mm.
people when they move to America change too. They become Americans. Like it's when they came from somewhere else, and I think grapes are really like they're a cultural expression, and if I think
Mm.
it's good when they change too.
Oh,
yeah,
that's a really cool perspective, Anna. I
yeah.
appreciate that.
I
I
mean,
like
part
that.
of terroir is so personal. Like you are part of the terroir. So like and you're
Yeah.
going to put a lifetime of work into working whatever you work. So you better love exactly what's there. But I think you've got it's a great example of what we found works on our on our vineyard. It's not Wachau Gruner basically. So it's this beautiful, like, so we in the last 4 years we've just transitioned our Gruner here that we've planted here, is going into this amazing skin contact orange wine, where our goal for the pH is more like a three. I'm getting a little geeky, but like a 3.5. Whereas
Yeah.
that seems high when you think about a white wine with nice acid, but it
Right.
actually works better to have a little bit higher of a pH for an orange wine, because it takes away some of the it starts to act more like a red wine
Right.
when it's skin fermented. So
Yeah,
you
you get
yeah,
I've
so
noticed that a lot too, where it's you can't think of pH by itself. It's definitely a contextual thing, and it does seem like when you introduce uh, all of the polyphenols and tannins and things that come from skins, you get this like bump up in the impression of the pH. If it could be a high pH, but with those other factors, it seems much lower than that. It seems like you're
Mhm.
getting acidity at a higher level
Yeah,
because of
we like to put our ingredients on the label, but we don't like to put our pHs on the label. I
yeah.
think
Yeah,
it's too much.
I know.
It's
We
too
can
much.
talk about it though.
Yeah,
It's
no, it's
fine.
too much
We can
information.
geek out.
As soon as you throw out like a TA or a pH, like there's this expectation, and it's just like we just taste the wine, please. Like
Yeah.
here's the ingredients and taste and enjoy the wine. Don't we don't want to go too far with numbers.
And are you when you say you're leaving on the stems, are you doing whole cluster? Or are you destemming? I mean, sorry, you leave it on the skins. Are you taking it off the stems? Is what I meant to ask.
We do both.
Okay, yeah.
It's about half and half. So
Okay, got
each
it.
barrel, we have 8 barrels in the cellar right now, and you go from the destemmed barrels to the free run whole cluster to fully pressed whole cluster, and it's just this rainbow of variants, and then we blend all that together, and it's just I come from the music world, and so I always think of it as multi-track audio recording, where if you all recorded it all on one track, it would sound away, but if you like multi-track it, you'll be able to hear.
Each barrel is a different
Yeah,
instrument. Totally.
you'll be able to hear the layers bit better, basically, and then
Yeah.
so
It's
that's
like
yeah. So
fullness and complexity. I'm just
exactly, yeah.
riffing on that.
Totally, you can really taste so, some different elements going on there. So it's
And have
nice
you
to have all of those elements come together into one wine.
just sticking with the geeky questions for a minute, do you notice a pH difference when you keep the stems in? Like, is the pH
Yeah.
rising? It is, so that is having that effect. Okay,
It's
that's why I asked.
it's
Yes.
pretty minimal, and it honestly can depend on the wine. Different different wines, different vineyards soak up more. But yeah, the geeky question is stems. And again, I'm not a scientist, but whatever chemical that's in the stems, I don't know. Is it potassium? Is
I
it
think it's potassium.
yeah?
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
potassium basically absorbs as you as you macerate on skins, and it raises the pH. But I mean, all wines will do that to some extent. You'll start with a picked pH, and you'll have an ending pH. But we found that it can vary so wildly from site to site, from wine to wine, and it's actually doesn't necessarily matter whether it's whole cluster or destemmed, although that can have a little bit of an effect. But we found that it's less than you think.
Okay. Well, um, so the obvious question here is why Austrian, but I think there's an obvious answer in Anna. Um, is there any other reason for why you guys selected Austrian
We
grapes?
always joke that I don't feel so homesick.
Yeah, other than
That's
Anna,
great.
what other reason is
I love
there
Gruner
out of
Veltliner.
You don't need another reason.
it's Anna. It's just like yes, it's just we love
I
Well,
it's like I love Austria.
and that's what I love about about Santa Barbara County, that it is so diverse as a wine region. You can grow
yeah.
cold climate wines closer to the ocean, and then you go, you just travel a few miles, and you can in Europe you would have to travel several 100 kilometers to get to a different wine region, and it's the diversity that I really appreciate here. And
Mm,
I think because it is an authentic story, I think it's important to have an authentic story, and we're passionate about Austrian varieties, so I think it's a good fit for us. But we're not dogmatic about it. We also make California wines.
Yeah.
We're Cal
yeah.
Austrian.
Well,
Yeah.
the interesting thing is we had to really we had to understand how to there's plenty of people who just come here and they make wine and the our winemaker friend who helped us in the beginning. He had an established, wine brand and made all these cool wines, and we said, yeah, we can find this Gruner, and can you help us make it? And he's like, yeah, of course I will. And then we're like, well, wait a minute. It's like, well, why do you even need us? Basically, it's like you can just make Gruner Veltliner yourself. And he's like, yeah, but you guys have a story. It's like you have a story to tell with this
Yeah.
Gruner, and we've been telling that story for the last 10 years, and it's actually it's totally defined us in this really amazing way, and we really enjoy it. We tell our story all day long at the tasting room, and I never get tired of it, not because I'm egotistical, but because it 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 there's passion in what we're doing, and we're showing people, not just like, look at how cool we are, we make these Austrian wines, but just the layers of showing how understanding farming and growing organic wine, and it becomes a mission,
Yeah,
basically.
that's what I'm truly passionate about, is like how can we, make it a the sustainability story is actually I think I'm more excited about that than the Austrian. I just happen to be Austrian, but the sustainability story is what we are truly passionate about.
Yeah.
Mm.
And
I've
if she was Italian, we'd be making Sangiovese.
But we also
um,
be going for biodynamic and rock certification.
Yeah.
I love it. Wendy and I have a long-standing love affair with Austrian wines, and specifically the one that you have made, but I don't think you guys are growing, Sankt Laurent. That I hope you guys plant at some point. That's
We
all I can say.
we have one row, and we have
Well, no, we have more than one
now we
row,
have more,
but
but one row
yeah.
harvested. So we have a half barrel. It's we call it Saint Blairy because it's Sankt Laurent and Blaufränkisch right now, because it wasn't enough
Okay,
for one barrel. So, but yeah, next
nice.
year we may have enough for one barrel.
That's right. So
Very exciting.
yeah. So 2020, yeah, we have a barrel of 50-50 blend. So it's the first biodynamic organic Saint Laurent in California.
Yeah,
So
it is. I know. That's really cool. I'm so happy. I mean, you guys picked some from up in Carneros to make some originally, right?
Yes, from Richie Vineyard, because
It was the only vineyard in America of it that
mhm.
I
totally,
believe, right?
yes, Dale
Um,
was a pioneer in that. He brought that variety over, and so we purchased some fruit from him to experiment with the grape.
now you guys are doing it. That is really exciting. Wendy will be ecstatic, and we will put us on your list for if you sell any of that half one barrel or
Oh,
half barrel.
we'll definitely send you bottom, Adam.
We literally every time we go wine shopping, anywhere we go straight to the Austrian section. Obviously, if there is an Austrian section, and pretty much purchase any Saint Laurent that we haven't drunk yet. Like that's
Cool.
just the way. So we've pretty much had anything that gets imported into Los Angeles at this point, and a few other cities as well,
Yeah,
wherever we are.
that's even it's definitely, of the grapes that are out there and available, the Austrian wines. I mean, it's definitely one of the most obscure when you're here, but obviously when you're there, it's quite. Um,
How's it regarded there in terms of quality and is it like the
In
I don't know.
Austria,
Yeah.
I think so. I grew up close to the Wachau region, and I was mostly a
Okay.
white wine drinker because that was 20 years ago when I lived there. So I would go to the Heurigen, and the red wines weren't really good because it was too cold. Now with climate change, the reds are becoming better and better. I mean, I read 10 years ago. I read an article about the Austrian vintners that they're excited about climate change. Actually, but now I'm reading articles about Gruner vintners being worried about climate change because they can't hold the acidity anymore like they used to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but yeah, so I think, in my opinion, I think the Blaufränkisch always had the best reputation, and anything from Burgenland, the reds in Burgenland, it's warmer there, so they ripen it a little better. So yeah, Sankt Laurent was, I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it definitely, Wachau is, I mean and the way Austrian wine is promoted, in general, you probably wouldn't even like know that they grew any red grapes. Basically,
Yeah.
you're hearing much more about Gruner and a lot of the Burgenland. Some of the Burgenland winemakers are, are like but it's come in the last few years. I guess Gruner's been on the map for at least 20 years here, I think. And of course, all of these wines have been around forever. We're just trying we're just catching on. It certainly wasn't high on my radar when, but before going to Austria and seeing all of especially the red wines and visiting. So the red wines are more in this area, Burgenland, which is on the just on the border. It's practically Hungary. I mean, you can see like right into the border basically. So and it's the same. So Blaufränkisch is I think probably the most popular. And then Zweigelt is a cross between Blaufränkisch and Saint Laurent, and then there's Saint Laurent. Saint Laurent tends to be, I think, a little bit lighter. And Blaufränkisch tends to be a little spicier, but they're both beautiful grapes, and it's just that they're yeah, it's amazing.
I
We basically started, so the property that we purchased in 2012, it had three acres of Syrah. So we've been working with Syrah ever since the beginning as well, but we at the time the property in itself, we've kind of expanded the property here, but because now we have a continuous another neighboring property that we've combined them. But in the beginning, it was a 4 acre property, so the 3 acres were pretty much planted out. So but we were, we learned the amazing art of grafting. I mean, we didn't graft. There's this one guy, Salud, that he grafts everybody's vines, and so we found uh, cuttings from Ken Volk had some, and in Pax Mall had some at Wind Gap. So we got cuttings from both of those, and
Blaufränkisch.
a Blaufränkisch.
Blaufränkisch,
So in
right.
2013, we just said, okay, we'll we'll take some of the Syrah and we'll see how Blaufränkisch does, and then we did the same thing to some of the Syrah in with the Gruner vineyard here that we had started working with. So by 2013, we had estate Blaufränkisch and Gruner Veltliner. So it was
That's
amazing
great.
because it did really well, and so we've been
That's great.
adding more ever since.
Yeah, that's exciting. What was the name of the graft genius?
Salud.
Salud, like health.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No, like I
Good to
said,
know.
him and his team, they go around everywhere, and it's just it's such an art, and it's amazing how vines work
It is.
and respond and
Yeah,
can change,
I know.
and it's just wild. So
It was a stick, and then 2 weeks later, there's huge leaves coming out of it. It's crazy when you see
It's
it.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, uh, s- I almost want to work backwards and ask about some of your interesting wines, but Anna, you brought up, that the real important aspect to you is just the kind of agriculture that you're doing. Do you want to talk about that? I love when I look at your page, I see sheep and chickens. Do you guys have those animals? Do you bring them in seasonally? Or like how what do you do in your vineyard?
We have some chickens and sheep right now. So we in the beginning when
Nice.
we only had the 1 4 acre 5 acre property, like we just borrowed them from sheep farmers and brought them just in during that time, when the vines are dormant and before bud
Hmm.
break. Now with the neighboring property, it has this beautiful old red barn, and we're able to include animals in our farming, and
Oh,
that's
I love
when
it.
we became certified organic from the very beginning. We were like in transition for a couple of years, and then we were certified organic, and then in 2018 we became certified biodynamic, and that the integration of animals really like is a key factor of it. To
Yeah.
we make our own compost from the bedding and the manure, and yeah, so that extra property, that extra space really allowed us to go there.
Yeah, we have baby lambs right now.
Yeah,
Oh,
Zinnia
wow.
stardust.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. Some days we wish we just imported them in for the winter, but
Well, and
it's,
yeah,
it's
it's
no, it's pretty
Because
amazing.
you just,
Yeah,
you,
just the energy is
it's a whole
yeah.
separate business taking care of sheep, I imagine.
no,
I
for
mean,
sure. Yeah.
yeah, have you guys, I don't, this is not a plug, but it might be a good resource for you, but I interviewed the shepherd from Tablas Creek.
Mm.
Hmm. Yep.
And it might be a cool episode for you to check out, but also just to get in touch with him directly. He's just a great resource and can point you to a bunch of people. I mean, it sounds like the shepherd community is a pretty tight knit community in the wine shepherd community.
Totally. No,
Um,
Yeah, we've done some biodynamic workshops up there,
at
and
Tablas Creek,
yeah,
they're great.
oh,
in
cool.
Thomas Creek, and yeah, it's amazing. Like that level of graze, like you really need a shepherd and 100 sheep to the
Yeah,
the our mower. Like I got to help these guys out basically with a mower, or else they're just going to explode. There's not enough. We don't have enough sheep to basically do intense grazing that you need to do,
right.
but we're growing the flock, and we've got
And we're learning, and so far I'm the shepherd, but maybe we'll be able to get like
Right.
a full-time shepherd one day.
wouldn't that be great?
That would be great. Sign me up. I think that's my dream job. I would
Vineyard
love
shepherd.
nothing better.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I just think that sounds like the coolest thing. I hope there's more of them coming soon.
But
I
I think so, and like I think it's true. Like I feel like with going the direction of regenerative agriculture, like things have to change. I think there is totally like an opportunity for businesses that like for sheep farmers to cooperate with vineyards. Like we need
yeah.
to change things, so there's some new opportunities coming up.
No, I've really seen I've seen I know you interviewed Brooke Williams too. I just
Yeah.
and what better to post on Instagram than letting hundreds of sheep into your vineyard. And I've seen it a couple times in the last week from a couple of different vineyards, like including
Yeah.
his vineyard. And there are sheep guys out there now who are getting a couple hundred sheep together, and they move them around, and it's a business
It's
basically.
awesome.
So, and
Yeah.
man, you can mow the whole vineyard like that in 5 days if you let 200 sheep. You can do a 20-acre vineyard in a couple of days basically.
And from what I've heard, very economically, like I again, this was in that interview, so it's probably on recording. But I, unless it was off recording, but anyway, he was talking about a guy who does this, who that is his business, where he goes around to the Napa, Northern California area at least, and he just basically says, "What's your budget for?" weed control or herbicides throughout the year. I will beat that budget. And
That's
he just
amazing.
brings the sheep in and lets the sheep do it. And so it's a double whammy. Like you get the fertilizer and you eliminate the herbicides,
Yeah.
and it's fantastic, and it's cheaper. So it's, I don't know
Win
why.
win win.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Triple win.
yeah, so now it's becoming kind of like, yeah, we just need to go from the organic to the you using organic sprays to using, no sprays and just animals basically. That's
Yeah.
kind of like how things, there's a continuum of, I mean, anything's better than, glyphosates and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely where if it we're struggling with certain, real world issues with having, animals in the vineyard. Obviously, you're kind of limited. We haven't quite gotten it down to figure out how they can be in there, other than in the dormancy period, basically.
Right.
Um,
Right.
Although I did see a webinar, I did do a sheep webinar last year, and there were some people that use sheep for leafing, and I'm going to
Yeah.
try this year on a small spot.
Yeah.
Because I think it's at a time when the grapes are still like sour, so they don't want to eat them. So
Right.
that would
Right.
be cool to check that out.
yeah, I think there could be a period, not, it's we're looking for bud break right now, and then it's like, well, there's still lots of things on the ground for them to eat. But as soon as these little shoots start showing up, the
Those are tasty.
yeah, they'll just get so interested in that. And we've had to put, chicken wire around all of our apple, like our apple saplings. We have about 60 apple trees we started growing in 2017, so they're only a couple years old. And
Uh-oh.
they
They
just
love the bark.
love to just nibble on those basically. And it's like,
Uh,
there's just something in there that they just can't resist. So you've
what kind
got
of
to,
apples?
find ways to work with them basically. So it's
Yeah, I've definitely heard. I mean, as vineyards are replanted and we are creating this culture that incorporates sheep and other animals into viticulture for these sustainable reasons. I definitely have heard about 55-inch cordon training. So that's like if you train the vines up to 55 inches, the sheep won't eat them. Like that's the height that is their sort of max that they won't go. So you can, if you're up there, you just have year round grazing in the vineyard
Right.
without
yeah,
impacting the.
we raised in our new vineyard. So like I said, we started with this existing vineyard, and then we planted 2 more acres. And we did raise it 55 inches. I'm not
It's more
sure,
like
like,
24, 30 inches
oh,
maybe.
Yeah,
Like
it's
55
higher.
is a lot. Yeah.
It's higher than 2 feet for sure. Um, no,
30.
yeah, it might be as much as 40. I'd have to.
We'll measure.
Yeah, it's kind of like what made sense, but then we also
The sheep
realized,
fit underneath.
yeah, they
Yeah.
fit a lot easier underneath in the new vineyard, but they still have enough. Yeah, you'd have to put it up there pretty high, basically.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I mean, I think I was, I mean, I don't know if I saw, the other advantage to that is it's a lot easier on the backs of those of us who pick the vineyards
Totally.
at harvest time if it's a
yeah,
55-inch
they
tree.
we well, if you go to some old vineyards, it's crazy how high the cordon's trained, and then it moved back down. And I know, like in Santa Rita Hills, places where it's really cold, and I don't, they say it's closer to the ground because it's warmer basically. So
Mm.
I've
And
heard
the
that.
wind too out
Yeah,
there
it
closer to the
protects
coast.
from the
Yeah.
wind. So
Yeah.
there's justification that way, but those sheep need to get under the wires basically. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have baby doll sheep now. They're pretty short and stocky, so that's what we like about them. There's, we had other breeds before. They were a lot more jumpy, and they would jump up on the apple trees, for
Ah,
example. So, yeah, they don't, they, they don't definitely wouldn't go up to 55 inches. Yeah, for sure.
got it. Well, so what do the chickens do for you in the vineyard?
The chickens are like, we just let them scratch, just going around, and we also use their manure and their bedding for making our compost.
Yeah.
in the
Currently, they are not out that much because we see the fox come by even like in the middle of the day. So there's always
Oh,
give and take. Ideally they'd be free range the whole time, but they have a big coop.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's so true. You just have
Romantic.
this romantic image of, oh, the sheep will be running around all the time, and the chickens will be free ranging, and then there's
Yeah.
just all these elements that come in that you
Yeah.
go, oh, wow, this is hard. Farming is
I've,
hard, and
I've,
you know, the modern techniques did away with all this for a reason, but you've got to get back. You got to get it back. You know, and
yeah.
you got
I've
to.
seen some pretty large bobcats in around Los Olivos,
Yeah,
actually.
we
Uh,
lost a sheep, I think what was to mountain lion actually last year.
yeah.
Yeah, even and
Yeah.
we're pretty much in town, so yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy, right?
Right. So
Yeah.
the you know, to really set up, you know, proper sheep out, you know, overnight, you've got to have guard dogs, electric fences. You've got to, you know, you've got to do more than just turn some sheep out there, basically. And,
Right.
so
Right.
it's
But
Otherwise, you're
my
just you're feeding the predators.
yeah, my favorite part about the chickens is that they eat kitchen waste, you know, so nothing goes
Oh yeah.
having having chickens.
and we get a few extra chickens every year just to, you know, you plan to have
You're
a
gonna
couple.
lose.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you plan to
We
have
keep.
a couple for the fox, basically. The
Yeah. Yeah.
needs a couple chickens, and we all like chickens, so you know.
I mean, we don't have acres, but we have chickens here at our house in Los Angeles, and it is that sort of like you get eight, and you know you're gonna end up with five in a year, basically,
Right.
for some reason. You know, they're gonna get sick or something's gonna happen.
It,
Um,
it's farm life.
yeah. Uh, I, it, but absolutely, I think, I mean, in a way, for us, they are great herbicides because they dig up like anywhere they are. If they're in a confined area, it just they turn it into fluffy dirt and with no, you know, weeds or anything at all. It's almost like a slow process rototilling because they just plow everything, eat all the weed greens, and then turn it under and make this nice fluffy rich topsoil with their poop and digging and everything. And then they eat the grubs of the beetles that eat the grapevines,
Yeah,
or the
and
in
the
the
mealy
grapes.
bugs, so they're good for
Yeah.
mealy bugs too. Yeah, they really help out. They're great. Yeah, pesticide, herbicide replacement for sure. Just
Yeah.
same ideas with the sheep, basically. Take your, you know, pesticide budget and then turn it into chickens, and you get eggs too. So it's good.
Right. That's true too. Yeah. I know. We have more than we can handle right now. Are you guys doing how much time are you spending on the farming?
Well, as much time as we can. We wear a lot of hats, so
Yeah.
it's farming one day and winery the other day, and
Yeah, this
helping in the tasting room another day. So
Yeah.
between growing grapes and making wine and selling wine, it's it's it it's quite a process. You know, we'll be.
for the big tasks like the like for pruning and harvesting, like we have like crews come in and that help us. So, but
Yeah.
biodynamic sprays we do all
Yeah,
ourselves.
we're finding that the less you have a crew, that it's really hard to train a crew to do, you know, like, I mean, we're giving them things to use, like when we prune, we do a special tree paste, vine paste, biodynamic vine paste, and it's great because they're the manager, he works with all organic vineyards, and they understand the concept of, you know, using vitis seal or something to seal the scar of a prune vine. So because they're doing it at other vineyards a few years ago, they when we would hand them this stuff, they wouldn't really know what to do with it. But but this is different than vitis seal because it's basically cow manure and clay and sand, basically. So, but very similar. So there's certain practices that we're able to pass along, but we're really finding um, more and more, we need to try and do as much as we can ourselves. Like with the weeding, it's really hard for a crew not to just want to just remove everything, and it's just something that the more that we've done no-till, and now we're looking at, okay, well, what's growing under the vines, and um, we we want to keep that beautiful wildflower growing right there. It's not a weed. it's
Right.
it's very
Right.
specific as to what you consider to be a weed, basically. So we're
So so you're
yeah,
sort of doing some strategic undervine
yes,
cultivation or weeding
exactly.
or
This
hoeing or
yeah, so this year we actually applied mulch under the like usually we use like an undervine cultivator like a Clemens, so but it's we're trying
okay.
to get rid of that. So we're trying to find other so this year we mulched. So a lot of it is mulched right now, but if there's a big huge weed coming right up like under the emitter, that guy has to go. But if there's beautiful little clovers that are from the cover crop like those, I mean that would be great if they establish themselves underneath. So it's a very
Right.
selective process that we want to go through. So it's very much like which weeds are the good weeds, and which weeds are the ones that have to go.
Right. And we've got this mulch, and as the season progresses here, you're seeing less and less of the mulch. It's getting overtaken by growth, and we were finding um, uh, yeah, some things that, but it's like you don't want to disturb this beautiful um, mulch pile and this beautiful soil and all this stuff. You want to disturb it as little as possible. So being strategic about what you choose to remove is important, I think.
We haven't found the
Yeah.
perfect tool for that yet. Or have we?
Yeah. Other
No,
than
I
just
we
time and sweat.
I'm very excited about this sort of electric cultivator that we first saw. I think it was Steve Mathiasen was using it, and it's an electric tool that has a battery backpack, and it's just a little it's got a little it's got an oscillating blade that kind of goes back and forth really quickly, and it works
Mm.
really well. So that might save a little.
And you can
It's like we're trying to think of not just our welfare or any worker's welfare. I think when you go organic, you're like, yeah, we'll just hand weed everything, or we'll send a crew out and do back-breaking work all day. Basically, it's like, well, that's definitely a way to not use pesticides, but you also have to think about a worker's welfare. So
Yeah.
you've got to so these tools are amazing, basically. So you need to add these tools as well in order
is
to.
it does it so it goes just like an inch or two into the soil and just sort of runs like you can just sort of run it along and it is that how it works? Is
Yeah, so it just flaps back and forth, but like it kind of moves up and down, like forward and back, about like really quickly, like
right.
in
Like
like
yeah.
uh, like 2 inches in either direction, and it's got kind of this kind of wide sawtooth blade, and it's almost like it's vibrating the ground when you put it in, and it just pops the weed right out, basically.
Oh, cool.
So
Okay.
so under the vine, that's going to be great. We're waiting to really put it into full effect. We're actually supposed to get some rain tomorrow, which we're
Yes.
at.
Yeah, I know.
So,
I'm
so
excited.
if the soil's a little moist, I think, like, yeah,
Weeding is a lot
it's going to
easier.
be
Yeah.
like butter. It's just going to just
Wow.
be
And
great.
so that helps you be strategic and quick without breaking your back and also disturbs the soil a little less than actually plowing or whatever like cultivate like an under the vine cultivator
Right. You can
kind of
just
thing.
do like a spot treatment, basically.
Right.
If you see like a weed that you want to get rid of. But I'm really hopeful that, I feel like there's a lot more people going no-till. Like there's a lot more people like regenerative agriculture, like the idea, like we did this class with Kiss the Ground. Are you familiar with them?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I feel their mission is to make this mainstream. So I'm really
Yeah.
hopeful as more and more vineyards go towards, no-till, there will be better like we collectively come, find solutions how to best deal with these new issues.
Yeah. I
It,
love that.
yeah, and it's kind of interesting how the regenerative movement it correlates to biodynamics in a way that I think even more sort of how do I put this, more more straightforward thinking can be applied to what was kind of the philosophy of Rudolf Steiner in biodynamics, which may be esoteric or hard for people to understand. I feel like science has really started to just catch up to
Yeah.
what biodynamics kind of started a long time ago with understanding microorganisms in the soil and how the 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 microbiome works.
Yeah.
100 years ago, there was no science to basically understand this, and
Those
now
were the earthly forces.
yeah, right, that's where the
Yeah.
earthly forces came in and all these things that sounded so esoteric, but now you can almost start to see it within regenerative agriculture. So it's pretty exciting because it's kind of taking some of the ways we used to think about tilling and how that was beneficial, and kind of changing that around a bit, basically. So that's important, I think.
Yeah. It does seem like, the idea of at least no-till is easy to embrace and is being embraced even in like a large even non-organic corn and soybean type farmers in the Midwest, because it's, in a way, it saves money as well, and they're all as concerned about erosion and everything that's happening out there. I've definitely just listened to a podcast about that where it was like, he's like, I farm GMOs. But I still fertilize with, um, you know, synthetic fertilizer, but I haven't tilled for 10 years. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, well, great.
Yeah, no, that's
Um,
amazing. We need to get off the thing. Yeah, and I've heard farmers just say, "Well, we're using glyphosates, but we can't we can't keep doing this.
yeah,
It's not sustainable. It's like we've seen the change, we've seen the damage that we're doing here. So we need to find a way to change it. So
Yeah,
uh,
soil
P,
health is
P,
important.
yeah, people are looking for a way to transition and change. So the more technology that comes out, the easier it can be, and as a culture, if we really start this shift, it can really help. So we're excited about regenerative organic certification, which is something I think
yeah,
people will start hearing more and more about. Um,
Yeah, Tablas Creek was part of the pilot program, and
yeah. So
we were part of the first round of farmers being certified. So they were just here 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we went through the first rock audit.
that's right.
oh, fantastic. Well done, guys. I love that. Yeah, I'm a big fan and supporter. I just reached out to them to see if I could do an episode about just focusing on their labor, sort of, the labor aspect of that,
Yeah,
because
that
that's
was
such a
new to us too. I mean, that's and that's something that 2020 like really taught us, like with COVID and Black Lives
yeah,
Matter. Like I've always been an environmentalist, but now I'm an intersectional environmentalist. You can't separate these two issues anymore. Like
yeah,
I feel like that's been really an aha moment.
yeah. That's great. I
Just
know there's some really great stuff happening too, and yeah, yeah. So we'll have to keep in touch about that. And I can't wait to, maybe hear more about the ROC certification, or I guess that's being redundant, but the regenerative organic certification process as you guys go through it. That would be really
Yeah, no,
fun to
I mean,
hear.
so I think biodynamics is pretty close. What I like about it is that it builds on. Organic is the base. Then
Hmm.
they take biodynamics into consideration as well. But then animal welfare is as the second pillar. So they make sure that the animals are treated really well, because my understanding is the regular organic standard is not. It allows factory farming, basically. You can, and then the social justice part, that's new. And so
Yep.
Yeah,
for in the audit,
in
like,
pursuing no-till, basically, which
right,
is
no till, or keeping the ground covered, that's important. And
Hmm.
we did soil tests together, so the soil tests are a little different. So you really look at soil as almost like another crop, like it's another,
Yeah.
like, yeah. That's what I always, when I explain biodynamics to people, is like, I say you look at the soil as a living organism. It's not an empty substrate that needs fertilizers or pesticides. If you look at it as an organism, then it's a paradigm shift. That's the difference between conventional farming and
Yeah.
organic.
Yeah, once your head goes there, it's like you stop watering plants and you start watering the soil. Like, you know what I mean? Like I think about that now. It's like I had a neighbor. I was talking about this as he was like watering his newly planted like landscaping, and he was like basically sticking the hose right on where the plant goes and was planted into the soil. And I was like, hey, you know what I've just told you. If you think about it, you should water all around that whole area, because you're feeding the microbes that will feed that plant. Like, they need the water, not the plant. Like but it's funny, once you do make that shift in your head, it does, like, you start to see, I mean, you start to look at the world differently in what you're doing, and then you start to see the difference happen too. I mean, have you guys noticed that in your vineyard? Have you, anecdotally or in any other way, are you doing experiments to just try new things and seeing changes happen, good or bad?
Yeah, we definitely see changes with. I mean, we stopped tilling 3 or 4 years ago, I think. And first, I mean, our neighbors probably just thought it's all weeds. It's just a perspective. But
Right, right.
it's I just like, the typical practice here was that you till in the late spring, and then the soil is just bare for the whole year, and it's just this dusty thing. And it just
Yeah.
it still goes dormant, in the summer. We don't water enough to keep it all green. um,
Right.
but but the root structure is intact, and there's no erosion. And it's definitely, it's a big change too, from where we were 3 4 years ago. And and the weeds change too. Like, I feel like this year I've seen a lot more natives coming up too, which
Mm.
is interesting.
yeah. We've definitely. I mean, we've pretty much eradicated. We had vine mealybug when we first started here, and everyone was like, well, you need to use this nuclear systemic thing, like that.
Right.
And it's like, no, we'll just keep plugging away, and, well, finding hot spots and peeling bark and spraying it with a little Dr. Bronner's and some alcohol, and scrubbing it away. And you know 6 years now, it's just like, I mean, you barely ever see it anymore. It's just like it
Yeah.
comes it you just manage it with, just it's just a very um minimal thing that what to look for. So but there's things like that. But the soil structure, the you know the and the amount of life in the soil, and the amount of worms and things that are happening within the soil. I mean, it really is eye opening. And as we progress, yeah, the things growing on the ground other than the vines are seem to just be in better balance, basically, as as we continue along.
I love that. Yeah. Well, and the vineyard is now, at least parts of it, the original part is now like almost 8 years old. Is that right? Is
The
that?
original part was actually planted in 2000. So we took
Oh,
over
okay.
a a conventionally grown vineyard, basically.
I
And
love that. Yeah.
yeah,
And so tell
we
us about your wines that you're making from
oh,
this.
the wines. That's right. We're making wines as well.
Yeah.
I know it's almost an afterthought, right?
It
Um,
kind
we
of
could keep going about the farming, honestly, but I know you guys are selling wine, so let's help sell some. I think it's delicious stuff, and
oh,
you have some great. Getting back to Austria, some unique stuff. You're making unique grapes in unique ways, so it's worth talking about. I think.
Yeah, no. So here on the property we have Syrah, which was here before, and then we started grafting Blaufränkisch, Gruner, Sankt Laurent. We have some Riesling and some Muscatella, like a Muscat, but we call it Gelbe Muscatella, like they call it in Austria.
yeah.
Okay.
We found some muscat, and we grafted some here in our vineyard, and so there's just a tiny bit. So here now on Delanda, the white the white wines, like I said, we transitioned the last couple of years. So then we don't have enough wine for the demand, and we like to diversify a little bit. So we source from some other organic vineyards here in the county. So it's nice, like I said, to have like we mentioned, to have some Gruner Veltliner from the Santa Rita Hills. It's very close to the ocean, beautiful, salinity. It feels like it's from the sea. Great acid. So that's more of our beautiful direct press, and then have that along with our estate Gruner that's skin fermented, and then we do
Mm,
a field blend with the Muscat and the Riesling and some of the Gruner, which is
mm,
also which is skin fermented as well. That's beautiful. But then we have another Riesling from from another organic vineyard here in San Ynez. Single vineyard. That's more of a direct press. So again, it's like the classic, and then something a little more funky. Lately, we've been doing carbonic Syrah, which is completely sans soufre, no additives of any kind, done in carbonic maceration, which seems to have been gaining quite a bit in popularity. Um,
Shoosh. Yeah.
yeah,
That's an understatement. Yeah,
um, we
definitely.
we're not really trying. It's like we just love it, and
Yeah.
it's just like we tried it, and it's always from the first time we started to understand it about 5 years ago. It was always something like, so wait, you take grapes and you put them in a container and you just leave it there,
Right. Right.
and that's
You
essentially what carbonic maceration is. No maceration. The 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 grape just starts to ferment on its own,
in
basically,
inside the skin. Yeah.
inside the skin, without any manipulation of any kind. And it's what they do in Beaujolais. So
Right.
you're trying to get that that fruitiness with no skin contact, and yeah, the
And
chemistry happening. You're starving the the yeast, and it creates a completely like this kind of
like it's like an enzymatic
yes,
Mhm.
breakdown,
yeah,
right?
it's an enzymatic breakdown that creates a very unique fruit flavor. Like, so it's you get this wild, like, Jolly Rancher
Yeah,
with
like
green.
bubble gum and
For
yeah.
I know.
carbonic.
I'm ready for one right now.
But yeah, we also make
Are
some sparkling wines. We make some pet nats and one method champenoise, a Syrah Grenache blend. So, and
like a
now we're
lemon.
making a cider viognier. So it's like we like to experiment. We have
yeah, I
very
was gonna.
small
I forgot
production.
about the apple trees. I was gonna ask about those.
We
I
Yeah, we like to have fun. It's just like anything that we can do and experiment with. It's a lot of happy experiments. Basically, the Blaufränkisch honestly has some of the most amazing flavors and phenols. It's really wild in the glass when you smell it. It's very tropical and passion fruit, and it's just amazing. It just comes off this vineyard, and it ends up having the same quality every year, and it's just it's 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 amazing because there's a consistency to how unique that wine is, and in these other
Mm.
wines. And so we're kind of I think 2020 we really hit our groove as far as what we like to do, and it's not like we're shifting around like willy-nilly, like just trying every cool trendy thing that we can. It's like no, this is like we're kind of in this what we're doing. We want to do it like this every year because it's just the wines are just so expressive, and we're just having a lot of fun with them.
What apple trees did you plant?
Boy,
They're all different species heirloom.
yeah. So
Okay, great.
you know, we've got pear trees too, basically, but you
Mm.
know, there's foxwhelp and roxbury russets and like all
Mm.
these heirloom varietals that there's a great nursery here up in
Santa Cruz.
no, it's in
Oh no,
it's in Paso,
oh, trees of antiquities.
San Luis Obispo, I think actually.
Yeah,
So
trees of antiquity, right? Is
Mhm.
yes,
that the one?
exactly.
Yeah.
So they
I just talked to them yesterday.
yeah, exactly. So you go on their website. Yeah, most everything they have is organic. But just the idea is to have a blend of these different apples, and it all goes into an amazing estate cider. So we only had a couple of buckets this past year. But we were able to work with another farmer up in Paso.
Organic, yeah,
Yeah.
they're farming organically.
So we got a ton of cider just to kind of get things going, and blended our own estate in, and so
And Viognier.
yeah, we added a little Viognier to it too. I think
Nice.
it's a nice balance. And then we used
I love that.
Grenache juice to re-ferment it in the bottle, so it's a little sparkling.
Oh, nice.
It's
I
actually
love
more
that.
of a sparkling fruit wine. In fact, I think we actually have to call it that because it's about 9% and it's not all apples, so it's technically not a cider, but
Mm.
it tastes like one for sure.
There's got to be a new word besides a fruit wine, a
Yes.
sparkling fruit wine. We need a cider.
Doesn't
But
roll off the tongue.
That's
So nice.
that's what it is. Yeah, the TTB has a certain definition of it, basically. So you have to, as far as
Ah,
labeling requirements, we're actually going to call
I
it
gotcha.
most, which is
Yeah, because the region where I'm from, there's a lot of cider apple trees, and they
the
make cider, and it's called most there.
yeah. She's from
Most.
the most fertile.
Hmm.
So
Is that M-O umlaut S-T?
No,
it's
it's just like most.
it's
Okay.
We're thinking of putting an umlaut on it just because otherwise everyone thinks it's like most, like more and more.
Right, right. Yeah, just to make them
Just
realize it's not that.
some Austrian dialect, it'll sound like most.
must.
Mist,
It would
yeah.
be pronounced wrong
Totally.
if it had an umlaut, but
I want to ask you about an Austrian word, Gemütlichkeit. Is that an Austrian word? Is
Yeah,
that an Austrian
very,
thing? Okay.
very nice
I
pronunciation.
with
I studied German in high school. That was my thing. I grew up in southern Pennsylvania, where it's like Pennsylvania Dutch country. So a lot of my old German farmers.
coziness, right?
Right? Or how did you translate it? Gemütlich.
Yeah, coziness was the thing, but it was sort of like we were always sort of told it's one of those words that doesn't have a direct translation. It was an example of that. Like you kind of have to just know that it's a lot of different things. It's this sense of coziness and sort of goodwill and you know optimism, kind of like a nice vibe,
Mhm.
basically.
Yeah, totally.
That's lovely. It's a nice word.
Mhm.
um well, great. How do people find is that cider available yet? Your sparkling fruit wine, I mean, is
In a
that available?
For a few weeks. Well,
few weeks. Yeah, I didn't see it, so that's what.
Got to get that label approved and made and approved.
Right.
But yeah, so we're here in Los Olivos every day from 11 to 5, and come and see us. We're
Nice.
currently able to do outdoor tastings. We have about 10 tables, so we've actually been quite busy the past 12 months for the most part with with outdoor tastings. So it's a nice little, from LA. We've had a lot of people coming and seeing us to kind of take a break, and you have your everything's seated basically. So you sit down. It's kind of like as if you were doing outdoor dining. Basically, you would sit down and we bring your tasting, and it's quite nice. And so we're here 7 days a week, and we have everything online, and there's you can go and buy things online as well. So there's definitely ways to get the wine, although it's going pretty fast. We do about we're doing less than 2,000 cases, but because that's kind of we're really careful about increasing quantity a lot. Well, for one thing, we have a limited resource with the estate, but I think it kind of becomes a different product if you start to make too much of it. We hand bottle everything ourselves, and do like I was down there this morning with our assistant winemaker Carter. Hi Carter, if you're listening. But, um, uh, and we're taking the pet nat, and we had disgorged it because we find disgorged pet nat, it travels better and it doesn't explode in your face. So it's kind of nice to disgorge it a little bit just to get.
Now, is it still considered a pet nat if you
Yes,
disgorge?
yes,
Okay.
it's basically the petulant natural. So it stands for petulant natural, and you basically you have to make it without any secondary fermentation. So a petulant
So
natural is primary fermentation. It can absolutely be disgorged because you're not adding anything to it, basically.
got
So
it. So
you
you're not
just
adding any dosage. It's just
no, you're not adding dosage. We just add a little bit. If we lose some, we'll just add a little bit of itself back in to top it up. And
got
we'll
it.
even put on our Pet Nat Rosé, we just put a crown cap right back on it. But the first years, it's too hard to control the G forces come out, and you either have to put a warning label on it, and don't open this, you know, at the dining room table with your white tablecloth, or now we just kind of
Yeah,
we pre-open it a little bit, so it's
I gotcha. Yeah, that
so
makes sense.
anyways, we do that, and then we have to go and label it, and then we add a little wax on our Pet Nat Riesling because we do a cork on that, but it's a lot of work, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Long-winded way, and we love it and enjoy it, um, but every bottle is picked up and touched many times by, well, that doesn't sound right, but it's
Lovingly.
lovingly, a lot of hands.
Right, right. Um, I don't know if we mentioned this maybe back at the beginning, but the name of your winery is Solminer, right?
Yeah.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes. Solminer,
Okay.
not
But
Sol.
not Soul Miner, which sounds horrid, like you guys harvest souls or something.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's interesting because
Wow.
that was actually our first. That was we dropped a U at some point.
Well,
We
no,
we were thinking, but
but we didn't think of it as a horror film. It would be more like you're mining in, like within, basically.
I see. Yes,
But
yeah.
but
So-
soul is more about the sun, and
The sun.
mining is more about digging in the dirt. But there's a certain amount of self discovery in there too. We like to say the U is silent.
yeah, it actually it's interesting because it worked out with with our biodynamic journey then too, because soul, like the sun, and the mining, it's like these earthly and cosmic forces. Like it's a good name. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, and it's, like the vines are harvesting or mining the sun and then giving that to the microbes in the soil, which provide the nutrients from the soil for the earth, for the vines to, so there's a mining process going on that's using the photosynthesis of the plant from the sun to provide the nutrients for the grapes that you guys turn into delicious wine. That's lovely. There's a
Yeah,
whole bunch going on there.
totally. We're unearthing the earthly treasures of wine from within the vineyard, basically. If you want to get totally corny about it, but yeah,
I do. I
we,
always
yeah,
do.
we can get a little corny for sure.
Well, that's great, guys. And it's solminer.com, SOL minor, MINER, not also
That's
the
correct.
other miner. Okay. .com. Cool. Love it. Well, I can't wait to try more of these, and especially, we can't wait to try everything that you're doing. I did want to say before we end, I just found out about this organization and that you guys are involved in it. Two things. First of all, if people go to soulminer.com, they will find out that you also participate in 1% for the planet. And I would love you guys to talk a little bit about that briefly if you'd like. And the other is Natural Action. You guys are one of the partner wineries with Natural Action. Is that correct?
Yep,
Yes.
yep.
Yeah, if you want to just quickly talk about that. I mean, it doesn't have to be quick. I just don't want to take up too much more of your time. And we're wrapping things up. But I really wanted to talk about that and
Yeah,
totally
for
forgot
sure.
until right
Yeah,
now,
we,
looking at my
we want to talk
notes.
about it too. Thank you for bringing it up. It's something that we're so happy is getting out there in the world, because I think, like a lot of people, we were really trying to understand what the just the zeitgeist of changes that have been happening, and in doing something, in being um, an ally for BIPOC community. So this is a way to help the wine world hopefully diversify. There's so this group has created a scholarship fund for for the Cal Poly um, uh, Vineyard program, and it's for it's a BIPOC scholarship program. So this is a wine club now that is basically has been created, in all of the proceeds will go to this scholarship program. And so I you get wines quarterly, and so we're one of the wines in the first inaugural um, shipment, basically. So it's super exciting to us, because we really believe this is one of the best things that the wine community can get together and support. So we're really happy about it.
Yeah, we're actually bottling the wine for this wine club on Thursday. So we're
Right.
providing 1 barrel of wine, and there's 3 other wines in there, and
Yep, there's Scar of the Sea and um, uh,
Good Boy
Amplify, I
and
believe.
and
Amplify.
Amplified.
Yes.
So these are all, they're natural organic winemakers, and so really the the impetus, and again, it's that we use that term intersectional environmentalism, which is just simply states that you can't take care of the earth until without also trying to take care of the people who live on the earth, basically. So we're trying to do something for social justice, for racial equality in this project. So I I think it's a great idea when it was brought to us. Um, uh,
Yeah, we signed up for
we
the wine club too. We're
yeah,
excited about
but
our first shipment.
we just immediately said yes. What wine can we make for this? So
and
That's
and the
great.
and the labels will be designed by like it is by Black artists, like this from a Black art collection. So it's a great project. We're excited to
Right.
support it.
I think a couple of the guys that are involved in it are art art are part of the art world, if I remember
Yes.
correctly. From
The
what,
Kinsey collection is a
yes.
big black collection of black art basically, and so that's the the families involved in this as well, basically, and then we've got some winemakers who are here, and some other um, black-owned businesses uh, that are involved from LA. So it's got a nice connection between the art world and everything, basically. So I think it's going to take off because the wines are going to be really great natural wines, and
And
it's for a good cause.
the wine world is still pretty non-diverse, so it's providing scholarships is one way of dealing with that or getting rid of that inequality.
Yeah.
What
It's
Adam,
great.
the
Yeah.
website we might want to throw out too, basically for some.
Yeah.
I think it's
Natural Action, which I think naturalaction.org. And you guys are listed there on the partners page. And
On Instagram, they're Natural Action Wine Club.
or
yes.
Natural Action WC.
Mm-hmm.
You can follow them on Instagram. But yeah, it's great. And then 1% for the Planet is, very that it's a great organization that allows us to give 1% uh, of our revenues to environmental groups. So there's just a huge network of environmental groups that is that can benefit from businesses who are 1% for the Planet members. So it's just a great, give back, and so we're happy to do it. So it's been good.
That's great. Yeah, these are, I mean, very cool things that you're doing. Thank you for sharing about that. I love that, and I hope you guys are setting an example for others, including me. I really appreciate it. So thank you, and thanks for coming on and talking about all this. It's been, like I said, a lot of fun
Yeah, thank you
for me.
for having us.
Yeah,
It's
no,
been
no, you're welcome, and we really appreciate you doing what you do, and you're building a great library of conversations that it's certainly it's got a lot of depth and information, and definitely I recommend everyone to go through it. It's for me, it's just amazing to hear all these people on your podcast. So we really appreciate what you're doing as well.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I hope it's a resource and can be helpful, and hope we can have you guys come back and talk some more. Like I said, I definitely would love to hear about the regenerative organic certification. It sounds like you guys have a lot going on and have the kind of minds that keep working on new things too. So that'll be exciting to talk again in the future and see what
totally.
you're up to.
It's a journey. We're
Definitely.
not there yet.
No, no, we'll get there when we exit the earth, I guess. Basically, we're just,
Right.
it's an evolution, and yeah, we certainly don't have all the answers, but part of it is to it's more about it's more about understanding and compassion than having all the answers, for sure.
I love that. That's a great ending point. Thanks, guys, very much. I'll
All
talk
right, for sure.
again soon. Hey, thanks so much for listening. I really appreciate your time and attention, and I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. If you want to support what we're doing and want to get involved, please go to centraliswine.com. That's CENTRALAS wine.com, and you can link to all of our other podcast episodes from there. You can check out the blog, and you can sign up for our email list, and you can buy our wine there. But also, please support Anna and David and Solminer. They're doing such great work, and their wine is yummy.